Too many people are, I prayed this, nothing happened, prayed this, nothing happened, prayed this, nothing happened, I haven't got time to pray. I mean, normally you ask me a question, I've got an answer, should we do something? Yes, let's do it. So I don't need to stall, but I don't then include a prayer.
No, you need to stem from a place of prayer. And the reason why your first point has to be prayer is prayer changes your perspective.
It's very comfortable for us to trust for the bare minimum. But God says He's not a God about the bare minimum. He's a God of excess, and we need to trust for that.
But by finding the revelation of God's strength, we can be content despite the circumstances. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The Connection once again. And I'm pleased to say that this time I get to ask the questions and not be interrogated, and even more pleased to introduce Stuart. If you haven't met Stuart, Stuart Kilmartin is from Scottsboro and spent the weekend with us, ministering to us. How was the weekend? Did you enjoy being in Richards Bay?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Honestly, this is the first time I've come and ministered, so I got to see a little bit more of Richards Bay and just get a bit more feel of it, so that was nice. You know, the last time was in and out, and I was like... And
Richards Bay is a great place,
It is a great place. We've got good beaches, good crocodiles, so it's a great place.
It is wonderful. So I've got three questions that I want to pose to Stuart, just to go behind the scenes a little bit more and find out his heart and what he's thinking. And Stuart came with an amazing prophetic picture for us as a church. It's not just a personal prophetic word, but rather a prophetic word for the church, a vision shaping and focusing word. And you had that picture of a flagship. Firstly, I mean, how do you get prophetic words for you? Was it just scrolling through Google, or was it praying and had a vision, a dream? How does God speak to you to give you prophetic words?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I said, like earlier, I said I knew that we were coming. And so I wasn't overly going and sitting and praying and thinking, but just during the day, just was constantly thinking, like, God, what are you saying? Just thinking. And then as I went, just that word just dropped to my heart, and then I just left it for a while and just like, okay, God, you just need to massage that thing, or just see if it stays.
Yes.
You know, because God is just going to keep emphasizing it, you know. And so that for me is how I know that what is a God thing. It just, every time I try to say, okay, God, what are you saying? It came back. Sure. Flagship.
I mean, flagship's not a modern kind of word, not really a word we use in everyday language. So, but you have to go and research it. Yeah,
definitely. So, I mean, I knew flagship from business. You know, if you have a flagship company, then generally it's like, okay, that's like it's already one people model themselves over, but that's about all I knew from that perspective. So actually, but what a flagship actually was in terms of a naval vessel and what that was, I didn't have a clue what it was. So, which was nice, because then you know it's a God thing and you haven't tried to make it up. Sure. So that was cool.
So church, if you haven't listened to Stuart's message where he unpacks that prophetic word, some of the characteristics of a flagship, I'd love you to go and listen to it. But let's flip it over now. How do we as a church respond? I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, God said it, we can sit on the couch, it's going to happen. Yeah. Or how do we be faithful administrators of that prophetic word?
Yeah. Well, I don't think with anything that's prophetic, I don't think it happens overnight. Yeah. It's something you've got to fight for. And so I think it's sort of I think as a church, you stop and you just go and look at actually what a flagship is. What does it mean to you? Because that's what I like about some of the prophetic is it's more just a glimpse actually of what God is saying, and actually then it's the responsibility of the elders to go in and chew into that and then get to the depths, and once God will then highlight specific things that you can then go for. But I don't think a flagship just happens overnight. It's something that it's layer upon layer into things. So I think it's first just find the very things as a church what jumps out and hit that thing first, and then we've a long line.
So here's a prophetic challenge, church. I mean, to be honest, didn't really know what a flagship was, so I did what any normal person does. I put it in Google, and then I pushed on images, and you see these amazing battleships. So why did you do that? Why don't you right now go onto Google, put flagship in, have a look at the images, and maybe find one that grabs a hold of you. And what is it about that ship that grabs a hold of you? And let's begin to pray. Let's begin to trust God for that, and let's take hold of it. But here's another question. So now, you didn't just come with a prophetic word, you came with a message about faith. Now, I know from going to other churches, it's always, what do I preach, Lord? Yeah. And so you felt to come and preach to us about faith. Why?
Well, I just think, like I said, faith is a doing word.
Yeah.
And I understood this thing that actually a ship is only as good as it is when it does what it's designed to do. And I think the church has lost that thing of actually walking out their faith rather than just, you know, we've become a consumer Christianity instead of actually God's called us to live out our faith. You know, and so that's why I just realized that actually even myself, even our church is actually, we're only going to walk into what God has given us if we actually live by faith and not by sight. And so I just felt like in this next season that we were going to be a people who live by faith. And that was I think that's the season of a flagship. What makes you a flagship is that actually you go out, like you said, into deeper water, into the battle. You've got to take it on. And so I want to just encourage I just wanted to encourage the church to actually step out, and not as a church, but even individually.
Yes.
You know, like I said, individual responsibility brings corporate blessing.
Great.
So
great
that for me is like actually, as each of us walks in faith, man, we will be a different church.
And isn't it interesting? I think is it Hebrews 13, verse 7, I think, where it's about consider your leaders and then imitate their faith, not even imitate their character or their lifestyle. It says imitate their faith. It's almost like there's a responsibility on leaders. You've got to set the pace of faith.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you spoke around that thing of I think you reminded me of that we always reflect the revelation we have of God.
Yeah.
So dream with me for a moment. What would a church look like who caught a revelation God is able? What kind of Christians would that church be full of?
Sure. Well, I think the whole thing with that flagship is the biggest thing is it emphasizes that the captain is on board.
Sure.
And it's the flag. It's the presence and the power of God that actually is the hallmark of that ship. You know, I mean, you can look at the ship, you can do it everything, but like I mean, even in those old movies, you know, with pirates, it was the flag that distinguished. Like when they saw the flag, it was like it used to put fear in people's hearts. And actually, as this flagship, that flag, when it's risen, it should put fear in the enemy's hearts.
Absolutely.
It's like actually, and that's only presence and power.
Sure.
So I mean, for me, that a church that has the presence of God and the power, that's when you see faith worked out.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's through the church the manifold wisdom of God is made known. So, and the only way you can do that is through His presence and His power. So
and I think, don't they still do that even in England with the Queen? Only when the Queen is in residence is the flag raised.
Exactly,
I suppose it's the
actually
same. It's the same with our lives, I
yeah.
guess. You know, when the presence of God is there should be a flag that's raised.
Yeah.
Now, I love the way you compared David and Gideon. I mean, I'm a Gideon by person, but the way you compared the way David spoke when he faced Goliath to Gideon when he encountered the angel.
Yeah.
Now, what was the fundamental difference? But I mean, what is the root of the problem if you compare David to Gideon?
Well, I mean, like I did share, it goes down to having a revelation and experiencing the favor of God.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Is sometimes we want to say, oh, we want a revelation. Obviously, we do want a revelation, but I think that comes through experience.
Yeah.
It's through a relationship. That's how we experience God's faithfulness. Therefore, we can trust. And I think that was the key difference between David. He had experienced the goodness of God. He experienced that God is with him, fighting for him.
Yeah.
Whereas when you look at Gideon, he had never experienced his own encounter with God.
That's good.
So he always had his dad or his forefathers had experience, and then they just told them stories.
Yes.
But David experienced it firsthand, which made him different. You know, so as individuals, we got to experience God for ourselves, so that we can.
Yes.
We can't rely on other people's experiences, because that doesn't give us a conviction.
Exactly.
You know, then we can't say we are fully convinced, which like Abraham and Sarah said, are we fully convinced? So
got to face our own lions and bears if we want to face. But I love what you said in terms of David was all about his focus was on God.
Yeah.
My God will do this. My God will hand you over. Gideon is saying like me. I'm the smallest.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, I come from my background would be from the insecure side.
Yeah, me as well. I'm very much the same.
Practically, okay, average Christian. How do I begin to get my eyes more off me and onto Him?
I think that for me, it's just going back to trying obeying God in the little things.
Sure.
Just start little.
Yeah.
Like the little things of going to church. Just, you know, it doesn't take courage.
Yeah.
But God is faithful when we obey Him. So
Yes.
go to church, go to prayer,
Yeah. And
go
not just
to
when I
connect
feel
with-
like it.
No, no, and just go.
Yeah.
Just keep doing those things. And as you do it, suddenly, because you're in His presence, God starts to build.
Yeah.
Oh, as we trust God, as we go, we start to see fruitfulness.
Yes.
And that's slowly how faith is. I think sometimes we want to make it like this big, you know, I've got to go to the nations and and you've got to do that thing. But I think that's those small, just read your Bible. They're just the standard things that God's called us to do, then
Sure.
gives us faith as we see the fruit.
Yes.
Because then we can go, okay,
Brilliant.
we're starting to see this in our lives,
Yeah.
you know, as God moves.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to get away from this, you know, thing of, oh, I've got to do this big thing. So actually, if you get the small things right,
Yeah.
that actually is faithful with little, faithful with much.
Exactly.
So as we faithful with the little things, then God can trust us with the bigger stuff.
Brilliant. And for me, that's such a crucial thing because I know how easy it is to get self-focused and introspective all the time. And there's no faith in.
Yeah.
Faith's up there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I've got a couple of questions. So whether you're watching this by yourself and you want to ponder and go a bit deeper, maybe you're doing this as a family, or ideally you're part of a connect group and are discussing this. A couple of questions are going to come up on screen now. Question 1, what do you think it means for Outlook Church to be a flagship as a church? Now, this is a great time to pull up a picture of a flagship on your phone or whatever and throw around some ideas. What does this prophetic word mean to you? Question number 2, what can you do to upgrade your faith to the next level? That word of faith. Now, how do I personally take responsibility? I want to see my faith grow. What can I do practically? And then question number 3, how do you get your eyes off yourself and onto the faithfulness of God? I'd love you to discuss that, maybe be vulnerable and try and aim for some practical things as well. Yeah. When you fall into that habit of going introspective, how do we lift our eyes and keep them on Jesus? Any last words you want to say, wrapping up?
Oh, I just don't want us to, like you were saying, Lord, don't let that seed get robbed. You know, because it's often it doesn't happen overnight, and that's often when we lose courage. Is when we don't see straight away the results, and actually, those are the times that actually show, you know, actually what's inside.
Sure.
And so don't lose courage, and celebrate the little things.
Yeah, good.
So as you guys trust for little things, celebrate those little things, because actually that's the next step to being and walking into what God is. So don't, what's that scripture? Don't despise small beginnings.
Yeah.
And you're not a small church. It's not a small beginning. But sometimes just in our hearts, it just needs a slight change. And don't despise that small change in your heart. That's actually, I don't go to prayer, but I'm going to go now.
Yeah, good.
Actually, just celebrate those things. So,
Brilliant.
yeah.
So there we have it. Come on, flagship. Let's be what God has called us to be. It's going to take faith and courage, but God is able.
100%.
Thank you so much for watching once again. May the Lord bless you, Stuart. Thanks for spending the weekend with us.
Pleasure.
And
It's
please
awesome.
take our love and regards to the elders, to the church back in Scottsboro, and hope to see you again soon.
Awesome.
Same to you. God bless everyone. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye for now.
Cheers.